Alright, this morning we're working on a 1977 Scout 2 with a 345 and a Holley 2-barrel. When I get a little closer, I'll do a close-up of the carburetor so you can see exactly which model it is, but it's just the Holley 2-barrel carburetor that came on the 345. The previous owner has disconnected the clutch, the choke circuit, and connected a manual pull handle, which worked in Georgia, but now that we're up here in Alaska and things are a little colder and the clutch has to function a little more in order to idle, we're going to hook it all back up the way it's supposed to be, so I don't have to babysit it for 20-30 minutes every morning to warm it up. So here it is. Here's the manual choke cable that the previous owner installed. This actually should be facing down and connect to this plastic sector right here to raise and lower it based on the temperature, which will cause this screw to be pushed back, which operates the entire throttle mechanism to give more fuel to the carburetor at idle. On the other side of the choke flap, the manual coil sits, and it's completely disconnected and needs a complete adjustment too, so we're going to be doing that in the video as well. Alright, so here's the guts to our manual choke coil. We've got the spring, the bimetal spring clip, the fulcrum that it pivots off of. Here's the adjustment point that sits on the outside, and then here's the body of it and the control lever that goes up to the actual valve for the choke. We're just going to clean it up, get it to rotate, this piece to rotate freely on the pin so it'll actually function. Okay, so we've got it all back together. Again, this is the fulcrum. This is the clock spring, the bimetal spring that expands and contracts with the temperature. What I want to point out here is this stainless steel, this piece is stainless steel and this piece is stainless steel, but this lever here has to rotate freely. I got a magnetic screwdriver and it's sticking to it, but this piece has to rotate freely on the fulcrum or it's not going to operate correctly, so that the center of the clock spring is anchored to the shaft, and the outer piece, as it heats up, will expand, and this will rotate around, right? So if this piece is not rotating freely, this tiny little spring isn't going to do any work. So this has to be very, very loose on there while the center of the clock spring is anchored. So this guy's completely cleaned up, ready to go, and then we'll get it all hooked together and make our adjustments outside. It's probably going to take a few cycles of warm engine and cold engine to get the choke fully dialed in, which will take a few days or sooner. It probably won't take that long because we live in Alaska and it gets pretty cold here, but we'll get her done. Give me a little bit of space. Alright, so now we got this guy loosely installed. You can see it completely pivots off the pin here. So the point of adjustment is here. So we're going to do a quick adjustment. The spring is fairly cool. It's been in my hand, but the ambient temperature today is about 35 degrees, so just above freezing. So it's going to be pretty close. So we're going to adjust this with this guy in here. The engine is cold, so we're going to adjust it to where the choke valve is closed. So all the way up, closed, and we'll I don't have of a short screwdriver to fit in here. So cold. Let's make sure that's closed a little more. And then we'll get a little bit of tension on there. All right, so this is floating free. It's snug, but it's cold and it's closing it. So once the engine's running, this vacuum actuator will kick in once there's vacuum in the carburetor. So as soon as it starts, this is going to suck in and pull the choke open. So this just has to operate while the engine is cold and off. Alright, so just an update. The throttle valve is closed. I'm sorry, the choke valve is closed. This bracket here, the previous owner had flipped it around. It was pointing up this way for the operation of the manual choke, which I don't know, I might do something with that. I might just delete it completely. Either way, I've got a temporary lacing wire line running through this cam right here, so that when the throttle plate, the choke plate is closed, this pulls up on the cam, which will rotate back on these steps, and then this screw will be backed off further, which will essentially open up the throttle valve a little bit, allowing more fuel and creating a richer environment for the carburetor start. So this is obviously a little tight. I'm going to create some slack here to rotate this cam around before I try its first start. So stand by and we'll make that adjustment and give it its first start. Okay, so we got it started, and we're discovering all kinds of stuff. In our particular situation, it was running rich. We couldn't get it to idle correctly, and then upon further investigation, we discovered that the throttle body plate is a little loose. So looking here, you can see that the carburetor is not tight to the throttle body. So I have no doubt that I'm getting some leak, some air in there. So we're gonna pull the carburetor off, tighten this whole assembly back together, and then try again. All right, so she's idling hot now. I think we got it dialed in. This guy needs a lot of adjustment, going back and forth, trying to play with where it needs to be hot. So now as this guy heats up, it's gonna pull down, opening up the choke a little more. As soon as the vehicle starts, the vacuum, this vacuum motor will pull the choke open also, just to help get it started. And then coming around the other side, we've got the choke attached to our cam here, and since it's hot, right now it's hot, so we're not actually adjusting the throttle at all with this guy. When it's starting cold, it'll be on a higher step on the cam, which will make the idle higher. So once everything warms up, the choke opens up, this cam will rotate down, and it won't use this idling screw at all. It'll only use the primary hot idling screw right here. We gotta adjust it to idle at about 1,000 RPM. So I think we got everything where we want it, and we're gonna button her up, take it for a test drive.
let it cool off, and then we'll check the adjustments once everything's cold and see if it still starts back up.